What the guys have asked me to do is to essentially look at kind of three distinctive or alternative ways of looking at discipleship, mission, and study. So I'm going to use a lot of, some words you're not familiar with. I'm going to describe, to some extent, a Christianity you're not familiar with as well. And everything is alternative because I believe, for reasons I'll explain in a minute, that we need some alternative ways of doing things. I've always been a little bit alternative. You know, when I was younger, I kind of dressed alternative. I used to go out to alternative underground clubs in pyjama tops and trousers with zips in them. I used to wear black eye makeup. I used to put a little bit of eye makeup on them and then squash it like that. I used to backcomb all my hair and shave the sides and stuff like that. So always been a little bit alternative. And sometimes it's just for the sake of it, and then sometimes it's because you need alternatives in life, you know. So I'm going to start with a story. It's not one of those fun stories. I know I'm supposed to tell a fun story to make you all like me, but I'll tell you this story because this is the heartbeat of what we're going to talk about today. I don't know if you've ever turned the television on and you see all those horrible things that usually happen in other places. A few years ago, my wife and I, we turned the TV on and we learned about a young girl who was called Susan Kappa. She was 16 years old, and the TV was talking about how they just found her. She'd been kidnapped for a week. She'd been tied up to this kind of wooden object. She'd been tortured for that whole week, and eventually they had smashed all her teeth out, took her to South Manchester, poured gasoline on her, set her alight, and before she died, she managed to crawl to a road, and police found her, took her, and before she died, she told everybody what happened, and she passed away in the hospital. She was 16 years old. So it's a shocking story. You're watching this thinking, oh, where did this happen? And then suddenly they show you the school that she went to and pictures of the killers, the people who'd done this. And then my wife, she kind of was like really shocked by this because she knew them, I knew them. And she used to be a mobile hairdresser. She used to go to people's houses and cut hair, and they were one of her regular clients. The next door neighbour was the grandfather of the killers, and he was a nice old gentleman. And she got paler and paler as they went through the story, and there was one bit where they said, they tied Susan to this big wooden spoon, and she said, oh my goodness, Paul, that used to hang on their kitchen wall. Now think small little pokey English houses. So we used to take that off to get around so I could cut the hair in the kitchen. But what freaked me out about the whole thing was they showed a picture of the house where she'd been for the week, and I looked at this house and I thought, it literally was a stone's throw from where we lived. And I realised that every single day that she'd been tortured, I'd walked past that house 4 times. Every single day. Guess where I was going? I was going to my church office. And I had no idea what was going on in the house I was walking past 4 times every day. And for me, that became symbolic of the church. Here's a young girl, 16 years old, crying out. How often she cried out, I don't know, in that house. And we're just going to our church building and coming back, never connecting. No likelihood of her ever walking into a church. Less than 1% of young people in Britain ever step into a church. Less than 1% go on a Christmas or weddings or stuff like that. The one fortunate thing for her, and who knows what influence this had, was that I guarantee the church went to her because our church went into the local school, you know, as Kevin told you about. So she went to a school that had, it was the worst truancy rate in Britain. On average, it was a 47% truancy rate on an average day. So 1 in 2 kids were what we called wagging it. 1 in 2 kids were out of school on an average day. So here's Susan. She's in this house. There is no chance that she's ever going to step in front of a church, barring a miracle. And unless we went into her environment, there was no chance she was ever going to hear about God, who could save her, who could rescue her. And of course, there was no way we knew her. She was never connected to a church. Nobody noticed that she'd gone missing for a week. There was no connection there. I think most of us, that happens most of the time, especially on Sundays. We're driving past all these houses. We have no idea what's going on in those houses. We're going to our buildings and we're coming back. And we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So yeah, sometimes alternatives just for the sake of it. Sometimes I wore black eye makeup and frizzed my hair and shaved it and went out in ridiculous clothes because I was just trying to be different and rebelling. But sometimes we do need alternatives. And what we're doing on Pays, which is the ministry I founded with my wife in 1992, is trying to help churches think through alternative ways of doing those three things: mission, discipleship, and study. Because as Kevin pointed out, people won't go on the kind of mission I'm going to talk about in a few moments unless their hearts are changed through the study of the Word and connection with God.